Yeah, so I think we should start there. So tonight during the Elimination Chamber qualifier with Jey Uso, Chad Gable, and Bronson Reed, there was a spot in the match where Gable is on the top turnbuckle and he goes for this diving headbutt to Jey Uso, who is pretty much like at the rope. And Gable comes up way short on this headbutt, but they still go to the cover anyway. And then Bronson just dives in to break up the cover and starts favoring the arm. They continue because Gable's next spot is lifting this guy up for this big bridging German. And then from there, after completing the German spot, Reed rolls to the floor, and I think they were going to they are going to a commercial break at this point. So there is the ability for a bit of a pause because Uso and Gable are like, they don't know what's going on. And clearly this is a major curveball to the match because Reed is the central figure of this match and he's out. And he does not come back for the rest of this match. They acknowledge this on camera. When they come back, they even show him being tended to, and they play it off as like this is just like a real life injury occurring. But Uso and Gable have to go like, 5-6 more minutes. Jey Uso wins the match. And then, like, you never see Bronson again after the one shot of him being tended to by the trainer. They do note that they might have an injury update later. And before the end of the show, they did announce the biceps tear to Bronson Reed. And it's worth noting that WrestleVotes had reported that Reed was supposed to go over in the match, which would hardly be surprising just given the whole dynamic of this chamber match. There is one actual heel in this chamber match now on Saturday, and it's Trick Williams, who might be cheered as loud as anyone on this show on Saturday. So you don't have any like organic heel in that match. That's, I guess, the least of their problems, but like certainly like it. I think everyone was assuming Reed was winning this match, and it sounds like that was the plan. And man, I don't believe in curses, but if I did, the Vision would be my first bit of evidence toward it.
Honestly, at this point, that I think is one of the more interesting things coming out of this. Do they keep the group going at all?
What is the group, Way? It's Logan Paul and Austin Theory at this point with Heyman. Like, I guess like Lesnar is sort of like this Band-Aid that you could at least be part of this group in the lead up to Mania. But like biceps tear, like this is very fresh, this injury. Like, I hear biceps tear, and I'm thinking, like, this guy needs surgery, and, like, this guy's going to be out. They just qualified it as indefinitely. Breaker's got the hernia. Rollins, of course, the shoulder. So, yeah, just a mess for this group at this point, and it did seem like, Bronson was going to be very prominently featured in this chamber match, and while probably not winning the chamber match, was going to be very heavily positioned in the lead up to Mania because, if Breaker is not ready to be back in time, like Reed, you figured was going to inherit whatever was in store for Braun Breaker.
100%. Yeah. So, again, this, whatever. This is not the level of injury that I think a Braun Breaker or a Seth Rollins, poses in terms of like changes on the card. But certainly, I'm sure would have affected something that necessitates now another spot being open. It really sucks. There's no worse timing than, this particular period. So it sucks for Bronson Reed because he, I think, he was certainly not like fading into the background of this group. In fact, I feel like he was, being well protected and being set up in particular for this Elimination Chamber like cycle to play a really prominent role on the show. So really, really, really sucks for him. Not the first time he's been, taken out of, I would say, a push as a result of an injury. And with how I think volatile these things are, with new talent constantly coming in, a guy like him, you never know if he's going to get this type of push again. So I imagine all these things are going through his head right now. But I have to say, like, however they put the rest of this match together, it was incredibly like captivating to watch because, you knew like this was completely at this point improvised.
Oh, and I thought if you're watching the body language and how they're like, Gable is literally like looking over the rope to see Reed. Like, they are both like processing this in real time. The Graves is basically saying that They're just taking a moment to catch their breath. It was like they had to really reset, and it was one of the I would say like this is one thing about this current era is that this stuff is so programmed that when you get thrown a curveball, like it can really throw people off. And they had to just pretty much improvise, and it was like go with Jey Uso here, and that was just what they did here.
They got incredibly lucky that the two remaining people here are veterans and are people that are as good as these two. Imagine if it was like somebody who's a recent call up from NXT who's never been in this sort of situation before. I think that would have been a lot more difficult. They got very lucky that they had somebody, I think, like a Jey Uso, who could be perceived as, like a title contender status person that you could have gone to in this sort of like, very quick, like, and that this probably interrupts whatever plans he probably had. Not to say like I would have expected the Usos to defend the tag titles at Chamber, but at least it puts on hold whatever plans they might have had for that title. But I thought, like, between them, the referee, and I'm sure all the, like, I just pray that Chris Park was the agent for this particular match, because I just, that footage would just be, I hope.
What if he was the agent for this match and he was in costume for his cameo later? So he's freaking out as Abyss.
That would be a dream.
Heaven almighty.
Oh my god. Yeah, I wonder if Unreal cameras would have been there for this one. But like this is they've kind of let us in onto just that little world back there. So like again, it makes all of these things that much more captivating, knowing how much scrambling must have been going on in the headset with the referee in the gorilla position and everything else as well.
Do you think there was a few F-bombs from Paul Levesque?
I think a few Sour Patch Kids were eaten.
Fucking powder floor. He's out. No fuck the tsunami. Jay fucking up. Gable fuck down, and then Zapata fuck. Roll over the fuck, and then fuck
down. Okay. We've been through a lot of these scenes lately. It feels like whether it's like real or unreal, John, right? And so we kind of have like a really great sense, especially like just due from recent sampling of how they shoot it, how they produce it, and at this point, like knowing they've done the work thing, okay, they've certainly done the real thing many times. What sort of changes in philosophy do they have in how they cover it? Well, I get the sense now they just like, if somebody's actually injured, they will just tell you that they're actually injured, and oftentimes they might even end the match, right? This is not one of those cases because you needed somebody to come out of the to enter the chamber match. So all these things are I'm sure like chaotic in the background as they're scrambling to figure all this out. And again, I find these moments incredibly captivating just because you've seen on that on the Netflix series like how much is going on, how much like people have to consider in a split second, deciding who has to win, what finish they do. And
so let me ask you this way: is in Gorilla now, like how many people that are like besides Paul Levesque and maybe the match producer, how many people are watching this now? And every single person, like, what's the biggest paranoia in wrestling? It's getting worked. And how many people are watching this and they can't fully believe, even if they're in Gorilla and Paul Levesque is telling you, no, this is legit. How could you possibly trust that? Like you're already paranoid in this environment. And here's someone that is hurt. And that's why to me, it's like, whether or not you enjoyed the Rollins angle it's immaterial if the byproduct of that is that you now have like a staff that just, they can't decipher like what is an angle and am I just being played for a mark here in the backstage area? Is that,
well, if you ask them, they'll tell you it was worth it, worth breaking that trust in order to like, I don't know, create content and create a moment at SummerSlam. But totally, like just even Rollins getting injured off of that, like diving.
Sure. I'm sure everyone in the back was thinking the same thing, even though like it would make no sense to redo the same angle. But now you've put that in people's heads, and it's just, you're not going to believe anything.
Yeah. Although, like in this situation, I'm sure you have to just consider, like, well, what value is there to gain from all of this? With Rollins, with the Money in the Bank briefcase, maybe you can kind of piece it together. But like with Reed getting injured, it's not like his return pop is going to be that big of a surprise or that important, right?
It's more so just you've created this environment, and I just think people are they don't want to get worked because they feel like that is this paranoia. And you can talk yourself into anything, like, oh, this is how you'd protect Bronson to not be awesome. He's not winning the match, but he was going to be winning the match, and that was the key here. But regardless, we're getting off into a different topic. But
this Vision faction is completely snake bitten, and so what do you think they do going forward with them?
I mean, it's barely even a group at this point. It's like you're down to Logan Paul and Austin Theory.
I think Lesnar is probably the play. You know, like you can have Lesnar join Logan Paul, maybe even join Austin Theory with Paul Heyman at the helm, and it still adds a level of relevance and star power to it. We know Lesnar has a bunch of dates, coming out. At least it creates some semblance of a unit, right? Now it'll be interesting when Breaker comes back. Possibly like we don't know how soon, but anyway, let's say he comes back, then you would have an interesting Breaker or Lesnar type of thing, and what do we do with Rollins when he comes back? I mean, all these questions, right? So
it is kind of bizarre that what's really happening to the Vision is sort of like what the storyline would have been for this masked attacker to take out the Vision one by one. That right. Rollins would be revealed to be at the end, but is not going to get credit for any of these. Instead, It was a Braun Breaker's intense 5 a.m. weightlifting session and an errant save by Bronson Reed in a three-way match to break up a cover by El Grande Americano.
Actually, Pierce got the credit for taking Braun Breaker out, if you remember Paul Heyman saying that.
Oh, he drove him to the 5 a.m. lift.
Yeah, he got him so mad he was working out vigorously at 5 a.m. So maybe they can come up with some explanation for why Bronson Reed didn't have time to warm up because he was so incensed, so paranoid thinking about this masked attacker.
Maybe this is the official breakthrough moment for Shawn Michaels when he was in the Rockers. Did you hear this comparison?
What? No.
Paul Heyman has compared Austin Theory, where he is right now, to where Shawn Michaels was when he was in the Rockers.
All right. Maybe. Sure. Okay. And who's the Genetti in this equation?
Some would say Austin Theory. So that's Heyman's comparison. And we will see if Austin Theory becomes a breakout star. Where was Shawn at the age of 28? I believe that would put him like around 93. So that would mean his big ladder match with Scott Hall is coming in the next few months. So we will see. Maybe he will have a career transformative match in the coming months.
Maybe. Did Heyman say something similar about Curtis Axel? When he was managing him,
I'm sure he spoke very highly of where Michael McGillicuddy was going to ascend to. February on the Post Wrestling Cafe, we continue our review of Season 2 of WWE Unreal, including a big look at Seth Rollins' fake injury, which culminated in his appearance at SummerSlam. We're going to be looking back at Shinya Hashimoto with a special career retrospective on Rewind Away, plus a review of Extreme Rules 2011, as John Cena announces to the WWE audience that Osama bin Laden has been compromised to a permanent end. We'll also take a look at New Beginning in Osaka, TNA No Surrender, and new members can take advantage of a 7-day free trial. Go to postwrestlingcafe.com and jump on board in February.